Let's jump into one of the courses, and it's the first course that's offered, which is Core Competencies. So, specifically for you for ITC, what are some of the main learnings available for students who undertake and complete ITC?
So ITC and Core are they're the same curriculum. They are the basic toolbox for NLP.
Okay.
They incorporate most of or all of the original skill set plus some additional skills. And so coming out of ITC, coming out of Core, you're able to sit down and actually work with somebody. It's kind of at a not a chunky, but a crunchy level, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then from after that, all the other courses are building on and giving you filters for using those skills. So it's the initial building block. What I find people come out of Core with is Core and ITC. It is the beginning of creating rapport with self. In the process of learning how to create rapport with everybody else and how to understand other people's worlds, we understand our own worlds. There is a very, very sweet empowerment that comes and acceptance of self that there's nothing like watching people move into that space.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing like watching people learn some of what seem to us like really small basic skills now that have profound changes on people's lives. And in very simple and subtle ways. But just their relationships shift a little in everybody's life. And sometimes they shift really dramatically. Yeah. And almost always for the better. Occasionally somebody, they shift enough that somebody realizes that they're not a match for this particular relationship, but even that's for the better. And there is the very first day in both classes, we go through the presuppositions of NLP. Mm-hmm. And these are some of the most profound learnings that we have. And as you learn to live with and as if the presuppositions are true, life really begins to change. So let me see if I can just one of the presuppositions is everyone is always doing the best they can. And that can be a hard one for people to accept in all areas because we see some really, really bad behavior out in the world. Yeah. And it takes years for that presupposition to really sink in and to make sense. But as it begins to sink in, as you start to view the world and view all behavior through, if this is the person doing the best they can, what has to be going on inside of them for this to be the best? And in that starts to reframe everything, and there's a certain compassion, and it is not a compassion that tolerates obnoxious behavior or tolerates illegal or tolerates harmful behavior. It does not have in it that you have to tolerate the behavior, but it does have a question about how locked up inside does this person have to be to behave that way. Yeah. And so you get to separate some of the behavior from the person. And when you start to be able to do that in life, the world changes. And that sense of hope is really different. Because it's not about punishing and redemption. It is about really trying to understand what it is that creates such pain and having some sense of how that can change. And so that's the first day of the course. That's the first half day of the course. And that's one of, I can't remember how many presuppositions there are, 20, 22, something like that. Yeah. I should know that by heart by now, but I don't. So not only do you get some basic communication skills, some basic change skills, some skills where you can make changes for yourself and sometimes for people in your life, but you get the opportunity, and it's not required, but it's an opportunity to be able to start to experience the world very differently and start to begin to feel like you're part of a team as opposed to an individual out there.
Yeah.
If we're all doing the best we can, then what is really possible in the world?
Yeah, that precept was pretty eye-opening for me, and it was something I continued, like you said, like you learn it, you accept it more and more, or you get more comfortable with it. And as I've gone through the levels of NLP Marin, that precept helps me just recognize when I'm either doing something, I'm like, okay, or somebody, I get a reaction from them doing something.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, okay, whoa, like they're doing the best that they can right now. I'm doing the best that I can do right now. And that kind of like helps deflate the energy kind of for me. And or if I see some people doing something else, I'm just like, wow, they're really trying, they're doing the best that they can. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean if they're trying to harm you, you're going to say, oh, they're doing the best they can. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, here I am. I guess you're doing the best you can. I'm right here.
What it takes out for me is the intense judgment, rage, and hatred that was there, and while still allowing one to take care of themselves. And when you are no longer approaching something with that hatred and rage, there's more opportunity for that shifting. Our students often come back with stories of, interacting with somebody who was upset about something, and the person suddenly, was just like, by the skills that our student had, they were able to put the person at ease enough that they got to experience much more of the really amazing qualities of the person as opposed to the really difficult ones. Yeah. There's a skill that, we talk about the rapport skills, which is beginning to allow the other person to feel safe. And it seems like a simple skill. It's something we work on every class. It's something you continue. But I had a student, this is one of those things where you just know something is happening in the world. When one of my students, who was a counselor at a junior high school, learned the rapport skills, she had a student, one of her periods, she had study group where the kids came in and did homework. And she had this kid who'd never completed an assignment all semester in any of his classes. And she was always working with him to try and get like one assignment done. And after the rapport weekend, she thought, well, let me try it. And she just sat down and she used all her skills for rapport, and the kid got to work and he completed 3 assignments. Wow. She didn't do anything else. She just did the basic rapport skills. She didn't manipulate him in any way. She just helped him feel safe enough to work. Wow. And I can't help but think that whatever that is that taught that kid, what the kid learned that day, and maybe that was the first time he ever felt safe in school. But that's like the first couple days of the class. You learn the skills that can do that. And to me that's just magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
So I love it when the students come back with stories like that, and they almost always, there's somebody who has had some experience, in between where they've used some skill and it's just changed everything.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome, especially for that kid, like you said, to probably never felt safe before.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think about all the kids that have trouble in school, and I think, what could we do differently in this world?
Yeah. If everybody just knew, which is fascinating, right? Like how many people actually don't know how to communicate with each other, either verbally or physically, right? Mm-hmm. And it makes a huge difference. Like some people have it naturally type stuff, but I see the vast majority of people not really knowing or.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of our educators do know how to do it.
Yeah.
But there, when you've got the ratio you've got, it may not be as easy. She did have a one-on-one experience, but I keep thinking, what could we do in the schools?
So there's a lot we could do in the schools.
In all of my spare time, that would be yes. Not in terms of changing anything, but of giving the teachers some skills that they don't have that would make their lives easier.
Yeah. So with the core competencies in ITC, because you said it's the same curriculum, what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, the core competencies is done over 6 months, and it's 19 days of training. So they're a little bit shorter days than what ITC has. In between, in those 6 months, you have study groups with the opportunity for at least once a week, but some people can go to multiple study groups. So it's a little bit longer term course. It's over time. You get some integration time. ITC is, Carl says it great, it's like, a fire hose. ITC is 10 days, 2 5-day segments a month apart, and it's 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., so it is all day.
Yeah, wow.
And for people who really like intensive, fast learning, they love the course, and they're the kind of people that like to go into course and kind of come out cross-eyed every day, and we do that for them. We provide that for them. It's also for people who are not in the Bay Area. It's 2 flights in as opposed to 6. Yeah. So we did it partially for those people who are living at some distance who want to be able to do it. I love it because you get to know each other really fast, and it's all you do for 5 days. And then you take a break, and then it's all you do it again for another 5 days. The students come out with the same skill set. The ITC students often need just a little bit more practice because they haven't had as many study groups. But often the people who self-select into the ITC function better and learn better in that situation. So it's just nice to have the variety of learning. And I have a bunch of really crazy TAs who've done it for years and keep wanting to come back and do it. So those of us who like it find it incredibly fun. Everybody else looks at us and says, "You guys are nuts."
Yeah. When I found out about the course, I was like, wow, that's a lot, especially going after core, like doing the longer period of time.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is, for years and years and years, those intensive courses, lots of people around the world offer them, and I just thought they were the stupidest thing. And I had all sorts of judgment about it, and I just couldn't understand how it would work. And then one year we did it. I put it together because I had a bunch of clients who had some NLP training, but not a lot, and wanted to go straight to masters. And I thought, well, can't we just do something quick so they don't have to do the whole 6 months? And I was talking to the staff about it, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And Carl said, well, put it together. And I said, okay. None of the people that I had designed it for showed up for the class. Oh. But we got a really, really wonderful crew of people who came in the first time and every time, and they went straight into masters, and they were fine. They were great. We went, hey, this kind of works, and so we keep doing it.
Nice. And so how does core and ITC of NLP Marin differ from, say, a 6-week online NLP certification program?
Oh. How much time have you got?
Give us the cliff notes if you can.
Yeah. So many ways. When you do an online course, you're generally alone, listening and getting information. You're getting data. What we do in our courses is we present the information, and then we have you go out and try it. Most of the time, just hearing about the information doesn't do it. Okay, so here's the really brief one. It's the difference between getting a ski instructor and watching 6 weeks of online courses on how to ski. You might come out of the online course with a pretty good technical understanding, but when we strap those 2 skis on you and aim you down the mountain, it's going to be a really different experience because your muscles haven't learned how to move and respond and react. Versus if we actually, take you out on the skis the first day and talk you through everything and let you try things and, make you ski for an entire day, you're going to learn way more than you will doing an online course. Yeah. Same with, it's like, would you rather learn to swim in a pool or online?
Yeah.
There are lots of things you cannot describe to people. You cannot tell them about, and even if you do, they can't make sense of it until they do it themselves. Yeah. So if you really want to learn NLP, you got to do it in person.
Yeah. And I think a big thing that separates NLP Marin, and I don't know any other types of courses from NLP classes or anything like that, but I think what I found very valuable, and I think when I talk to other people as well, the big thing was the study groups.
The chance to practice, having a training assistant staff that are supported and trained and know how to give you feedback, it makes a difference. And then we have, underneath all of it, we have a really different philosophy than a lot of NLP centers. And a lot of NLP training is about identifying a problem and fixing it. And we start from the standpoint of however you are is just fine. And now it's about what you would prefer, not fixing anything. So we don't consider anything that you're experiencing a broken or wrong experience. And there's something that happens in that space that allows people to appreciate and, in one way or another, and it sounds really corny, but fall in love with themselves. As opposed to having a laundry list of things that they need to fix about themselves. And life is about change. It's about learning. No matter where you are, there's more you want, and you want to be better at things. And if you can view where you are as just fine and still know that you want more and know that that's fine, your relationship with yourself is much stronger than if wherever you are is wrong and where you want to be is right.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the main differences that our students learn, and they don't necessarily know they're learning that stance until they bump into an old friend they haven't talked to in a while, and their friend's like, "What is different about you?" Yeah. When I was a student, I had this experience. So I'd finished the course, and I was going out to dinner with a friend of mine who I hadn't seen since I started the course, and I wanted to show her how much of a difference the course had made in my life. I wanted to walk in and I wanted to be glowing and gorgeous and so happy and just like radiate. I have done this great course. And I had the shittiest day of my life. I was in a terrible mood. I was cranky. I could just barely stand to be with myself. It was just one of those days. Yeah. And I still had this dinner date. And I went out to dinner with her. She looks across the table and she says, "What have you been doing? You look so good." And I thought, well, heck, if this is my worst day and I look better than I did on my good days 6 months ago, this is good. I'm so glad I had a bad day that day, because I wouldn't have realized how much change had been if I thought I went in there just showing off.
Yeah.
But, that I just kind of dragged myself into the restaurant, or felt like I was, and she thought I looked really good, was just stunning.
I can see it still affects now. I mean,
I just remember that moment going, wow, I've really done something. And I tell students and I tell clients that is the experience that does happen sometimes, is you don't know that you're different. You don't know that you're better. You don't know that you're happier until you run into somebody who looks at you and goes, "Did you get a haircut? Are those new glasses? Have you lost weight?" They can't figure out what it is, but they know something is different about you that, seems to be working.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it was NLP.
Nope, I
Then you
got
have
me
to,
some new NLP though.
yeah. And then you have to describe what NLP is. So
Yeah.
usually it's easier to say, yeah, I got a haircut.
So, so speaking of, um, what what is the benefit of undertaking core versus just hiring you for a private NLP session?
Oh, cool. To me, the difference of undertaking core is that you learn the skills for yourself and you create a community. You create a support system. And it doesn't, some people, when they hear community and support system, they just think, ooh, right? I took my class in 1987. And to this day, there is another student in the class who, good 20 years older than me. But if you put us down with a cup of coffee, 2 or 3 hours will go by and we won't realize it. There is a connection that is so strong. And I don't talk to this person but once every 5 years.
Oh, wow.
But we went through something together. So the benefit of the core is I'm not talking about, you now have your best buddies for the rest of your life, but you have this, it's like you create another home that you can go back to. You also you come out with a skill set that can be valuable in any occupation and in any place in life. It can propel you further. The benefit of doing individual sessions is the depth you can go to, a little bit of privacy, and getting some deeper change that you get in an individual session. If somebody's having a really rough time in their life, then I recommend they do some individual sessions and then maybe move on to core. If somebody's doing pretty well and they want to sort of accelerate their life, then the core is the place to go. And within core, you get a lot of personal work because we're always in small groups. And a third of the time in the small groups, somebody is practicing the skills on you. So you're essentially getting pieces of work done. And especially when you get to masters. Yeah. With masters, the study groups, you get a lot of personal sessions. They might be a little clunkier than if you came to someone, but it doesn't, that's the thing I love, is that the NLP makes huge changes even if the programmer's a little clunky.
And I can attest to that because I do a lot of clunky work. And sometimes it just sticks. And I go, oh, all right, we'll go with it.
Well, and and always as the practitioner, it feels clunkier to you than it does almost always as a subject. Occasionally as a subject, you just have somebody, you're just like, all right, but that's why we have training assistants there, so that everybody is taken care of in one way or another.
Yeah. And so we've been laughing here so far and had some fun. So what role does fun and laughter play in learning the skills?
When you learn with fun, with laughter, your whole system is much more open. And the association of what you learn includes fun and laughter, which is something that we will gravitate towards. And I spent a lot of time in an NLP center that didn't have as much laughter, didn't have as much fun, was very serious, was a little bit more about going after and chasing down your fears. And I see the people coming out of NLP Marin so much more at peace with themselves and each other. This world is full of a lot of difficulty, but it is also full of a lot of hilarity. And when the judgment starts to lift, things get a lot more funny, you know. The really, really good comedians make some really, really good points while we're laughing.
Yeah.
We're just, there's just like this openness that allows it to come in, allows you to learn more. If you're learning something while you're laughing, we've all had the teacher that was hilarious, but that got our attention and that we, I remember a chemistry teacher who was showing us around the room, and she took, the hand sprayer the very first day, and she just sprayed it through the whole class. Like, this thing comes with a lot of force. I never forgot that. I don't remember why she was showing us that particular thing, when she was showing us how to blow the place up. And, like, we were paying attention. She was a little crazy, and it was fun, and we were laughing. And the ones that, when you're scared, you shut down. You're not as open. And when you struggle, you shut down. So we do try and keep a certain levity, but it is not a levity that has a disrespect. It has a deep, deep respect. Mm-hmm. So when you can respect and laugh simultaneously, then something opens up much bigger in the system.
Yeah. And I know going through core, just having that laughter when somebody's going through something pretty heavy, sitting up front or wherever, and then all of a sudden one of the teachers says something, and it just like totally breaks everybody, because the people as students are just sitting there just like, what's going on? And then the person up front it's going through something, and then just like, then all of a sudden the whole room is just laughing. It's an amazing experience.
Yeah, the laughter lets us know we're going to survive. If our survival is in question, we don't tend to laugh. Yeah. If somebody's hunting us down, we don't hide behind a bush and giggle. Yeah. So there's this, like, laughter is a signal to us that it's okay and it's going to be okay. And as a trainer up front, when you're working with somebody or one-on-one when you're working with somebody, there's a point you get to in NLP where it isn't, there isn't much or anything that's really scary anymore. You can watch people hit painful experiences, but they're not scary to you as a practitioner or as a therapist. They're more exciting because you know what's on the other side of it. And so we use laughter sometimes just to help remind people that there's more to this than the pain we're seeing in the moment.
Yeah. Nice.
And we also just can't be that serious, none of us.
Which is a good thing. I think that's what I was drawn to.
Seriousness is boring.
It is extremely boring. I try not to be serious if I don't have to be.
And that's the other thing, is when you have a little bit of humor and a little bit of unpredictability, people stay more alert. Yeah. They stay more interested. Something is much more fun to watch if you're not quite sure where it's going. Yeah. And if after a while you know that you're not quite sure where it's going, but it's going to be funny and it's going to be safe, then you really stay interested. Because that's, if you just think about any of our great comedians, especially some of the physical comedians, you're never quite sure what they were going to do. Yeah. And so you watch really closely. Yeah. And so you learn faster.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great way, because I think about anytime I've had to speak to people or have sat through somebody that's teaching something, and you're just like, you're falling asleep, or just like, you're like, what? And especially because when you're going through core, or any of these trainings, like, you're learning some really deep stuff and about yourself and others, and it's heavy and it's a lot of stuff, but being able to stay engaged and laugh through it makes it a lot lighter and easier to go through and just more enjoyable.